welcome guys to the to C2E2. Did everybody have a good day? Let me hear you. Yeah. Saw some stuff. Let's try to figure out why everybody's here. You guys are here, fans of the DVM podcast empire. Let me hear you. Right? Woo! Oh yeah, baby! We got a big one in the back. Fans of Mr. Anderson, let me hear you. Oh my God! Well, tonight you guys are going to get a little bit of an education because if you didn't know that also, aside from wrestling, he is the co-host of Push the Button on the DVM podcast empire. That's DVMPE.com. Check it out. We are going to bring up the two hosts of Push the Button. For those of you who don't know what Push the Button is, Push the Button is a controversial podcast. Those things that they told you, don't talk about that in a bar. Don't talk about that with your grandparents because they're probably going to be racist. Don't talk about that, don't talk about that in mixed company, politics, religion, everything. Whatever those things are, that's what we like to talk about. So what we're going to do now is we're going to bring up the first host and the emperor of the DVM podcast emperor. He is a comedian. Oh, wow. Holy crap.
Yeah, all right.
Hey, thanks. Do that in a second. He's an improv comedian. He is a podcaster. He's a father, a lover, if you will. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Mr. David Vox Mullen. Oh my God, he touched me! This is going to be the fun one.
Yeah, this is, yeah, I did not touch him. Not one bit.
I touched him. And the co-host, you know him as a professional wrestler. Tonight you're going to get to meet him as a podcaster. I know, right? Weighing in at, I was too intimidated to ask, and a quarter pound. From Green Bay, Wisconsin, Mr. Anderson.
We've got a fan in here that's just going crazy and yelling crazy stuff out. I don't know. He touched me. Hi.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit.
Anderson! No? All right.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about, like I said, while we're here. You guys are going to get to ask questions a little about, but we're going to talk about Push the Button. I'm going to ask some questions first, and then you guys can ask all the questions you want. How does a comedian, improviser, podcaster from Chicago meet up with a wrestler and say, "Hey, let's start a podcast"?
Well, there was a lot of inappropriate phone calls made, but actually, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. We were here at
That making the inappropriate phone calls?
Yes, no, it was all you.
I beg to differ.
We were here at C2E2 just last year, and Ken saw me from across the aisle. And it was beautiful.
Our eyes met.
That's right. It was music.
We ran towards each other to a warm embrace. Actually, it was kind of like that.
It kind of was.
We were
sweating profusely. I hadn't.
Hey! This is a family show, okay?
I'm sorry. And Ken walked up to me and said, "Hey," it's more like, "Hey."
That's
you do podcasts? Yeah, we do. I want to do a podcast.
That's not how I talk, bro.
It's a little how you talk. And I was thinking, oh great, another wrestler wants to do a podcast, right? And the first thing he said was, but I don't want to talk about wrestling. Oh, okay. What do you want to talk about? He said, well, I want to talk about all the stuff you're not supposed to talk about. Sex, religion, politics. And I said, you're going to get fired. But,
and I said, I've already been fired once before. I'll get fired again. That's just par for the course in my business.
Yeah, right. So I gave him my business card, and he never called.
I didn't. I dragged my feet.
I figured it was a lost. I figured it was never going to happen, and then I got a strange phone call one day, and it was Ken saying,
"Strange phone call.
Is this Dave?" I was like, "Yes," and he's like, "Hey, it's Ken Anderson." I thought, "Wow, who?" And no, I'm just kidding.
I get that a lot.
I was floored. I was floored. And he's like, "Hey, I wanna talk to you about this podcast thing." And something had happened to you, and you had some conversations with people, and you were like, "I'm fuming, and I want to do this, and let's do it." Mm-hmm. And so I said, "Hey, let's get to work." So we started talking about different ways we can make the show work, and we.
Yeah, and then if it was up to me, we would probably still be dragging our feet, because I was like, we have to make sure that everything's perfect and we have our format down. And he just said, "Look, I've been doing this for a while. Let's just pick a topic and go there, and we'll sort of figure it out and iron out the kinks as we go." And thank you, David.
And the rest is history. So we've had, let's see, our full year we've done, I think it's 23 episodes, and it's been an amazing thing. And we're both completely different people, to a degree, I would say. I am a Christian, which obviously
I am an atheist.
Differs from Ken.
I am an ordained minister with the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster.
And we both had things that we disagreed with, and there was things that we agreed with. And I thought, man, it would be really cool if we could, find some common ground, which we do, and we get right into it. We find a way to differ without getting all explosive and arguing with each other.
Yeah, and I think where we differ, we don't. I just interrupted you. Oh shit.
Fine.
This always happens.
I know.
You always do this to me. Now I don't even remember what the hell I was going to say.
So anyway,
so we have our differences, right? But we don't try to have differences. Where the differences lie, we just talk about them, and where we sort of meet, we always try to bring on a guest that totally disagrees with us. That doesn't always happen.
Sometimes we get them, but sometimes they end
like
up.
With the gay marriage episode, we talked about gay marriage, and we both agree on that subject. So I brought in a friend of mine who happens to be a Catholic priest, and we know that guy doesn't agree with us. So
yeah. Well, and being a Christian, my position on gay marriage was somewhat, I would argue, lenient, in contrast to a lot of where modern Christianity is at. So it was, right off the bat, that was one of the things that I think worked for us.
Yeah.
Because I didn't agree with a lot of what the church was saying presently, and so we had that to stand on. And then, but you had your friend who was a father, a priest, on, and it got slightly heated, but it wasn't like there was no arguing. It was good debate. It was really good. He explained why the Catholic Church felt the way they did towards homosexuality and generally, and then we kind of got into hey, what about being an American? And there's American issues involved, and as opposed to just religious issues. And it really exploded into there.
Ken, do you remember the conversation, whatever the conversation you had with that person that wasn't him that said, I want to do this. This is something I want to do.
Well, it was several conversations, and so I've always been a skeptic since I was a little kid. My parents made me go to Sunday school. I went to church all the time as a little kid, and I was always skeptical. I remember sitting in the pews and watching people recite things, and I was reciting them too, like the Nicene Creed, and I had no idea what the hell any of it meant. I remember one day just going,
it's feeding back. I'm trying to help you out, man.
Should we move farther apart? Is that the deal?
Maybe. That's it. There you
so, yeah, I remember thinking, like, I don't even know what the hell this means. And I looked around the room, and it looked like just people reciting. And so I've always been skeptical. And then just in the last maybe 5 years or so, I had more and more people in my life, family members and friends, who consider themselves to be devout Christians. Many of them fundamentalist Christian, who would always look down upon me. Not like they were condescending. It felt condescending, but they were looking at me with this sort of pity. Like, Ken, you need this thing in your life that I have that just completes me and makes me feel so wonderful. And I just can't believe that you haven't found that, you don't have that. You need that personal relationship with Jesus Christ, specifically Jesus Christ, none of the other thousands of other gods that have ever existed.
They weren't interested in a relationship with you.
Not in a relationship with Thor or Zeus or. So I said, okay, you know what? I need to I don't just take somebody's word for things. I need to do some research on my own. So I picked up the Bible and I started reading it cover to cover. And I kept notes, pretty meticulous notes. I have four notebooks at home that are filled cover to cover with, literally, scripture by scripture, verse by verse.
I would like to point out that most homicidal maniacs also have notebooks filled with stuff. I'm just pointing that out.
Well, I have all sorts of stuff in there too about how sick and tired I am with the government and
oh no,
want
to move to Texas. And,
yeah.
You guys did an episode on you guys go home and check it out on iTunes when you get done. You guys did an episode on Santa Claus.
Yeah.
What was the?
I think we're now new fans of Santa Claus, right?
What was the basis of that? I mean, like, whoa, don't bring up him in front of
Well, I've always felt like, not always, but one day it just kind of dawned on me, like, what's the difference between one of the first things that parents teach their children? One of the first things they do is they lie to them and teach them, like, there's an invisible, or not an invisible, well,
you know.
That too.
Well, I think that was the thing about the episode, was we wanted to really point out the fact that there was a real Saint Nicholas.
No,
I did. That's why I did.
Well, yes, but. He's been teaching me improv. So, my, I guess, point that I wanted to really hit home was, why is it considered moral to lie to your kids? Like, we lie to them. We tell them, like, there's this guy who flies around the earth in one night in a magic sleigh pulled by reindeer, and he brings toys to all the Christian kids.
What are you trying to say?
Wait.
He doesn't bring up the Muslim kids. You have to be a Christian.
Well, what did they do?
So anyway, they were bad kids. They believe in the wrong faith. So anyway, but we teach them this, and then when their little brains start working and start saying, like, wait a minute, like, reindeer don't fly, Dad. Well, these are magic reindeer, and then we make up more lies. I have an aunt who did the Elf on the Shelf thing, which has become popular in the last couple of years, right? And it's this little elf.
It's an ancient historical
artifact. It's a little creepy looking little freaking elf. It reminds me of the poltergeist clown that's under the bed, you know. So there's this creepy little elf that, magically freaking moves from place to place throughout the house during the night. Well, obviously Mom and Dad move it. And then I remember my little nephew or my little cousin caught Mom moving the elf in the morning. She had forgotten to do it at night while he was sleeping, and she was like, oh shit, I got to do it real quick. And so she went and moved it, and he came in and goes, Mom, you touched him. And he was pissed, like, Mom, you've been lying to me. You've been moving this elf. And she said, no. And she made up some lie on the spot, and then she actually went to work and typed out this really long note, or wrote out a really long note and signed it like Santa Claus, and said, like, sometimes I give moms and dads authorization to help me out a little bit, and yada yada. My point is,
make a paper trail.
we lie to these kids, and then I don't know.
More evidence than Benghazi.
My sister sent me one. She said, I need you to put it on your mantle for when they visit for Christmas. And I said, no, I don't allow snitches in my house. So keep that the hell out of here. When did you guys have done religion? You've done Santa Claus. I did marijuana with you guys.
No, you did an episode about marijuana with
whatever
us.
You want to say. Whatever you want to say. No,
it was medicinal, bro.
I got a text from him one morning. Hey, do you smoke weed? And I was like, why?
I thought maybe you did.
Is the NSA listening?
I was like, I don't
No.
feel comfortable responding, so I said like a smiley face. And it was so that I could come on and do the show with him. It was the first time I ever got to talk to Ken. After all of those things, is there the one that you're just like, that you were somewhat worried about? That you're like, ugh.
I would think there were more that you were worried about coming out in the beginning than I was.
Well, being a public...
Well, I guess just because, you know what, these topics are divisive, and you're going to alienate. If I went on Impact next week and said, like, hey, just to let everybody know, I'm an atheist, immediately at least 50% of my fan base would go, we don't like Mr. Anderson anymore.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the facts.
Well, and it's happened to you on social media.
Yeah, and I've had people like unfollow me.
Somebody recently came out that like there's country singers doing anti-gun rallies, and a friend of mine who's a big gun guy says, you know, I don't think I want to listen to that guy's songs anymore. I'm like, you still like the songs just because you don't like guns. I mean, well, I don't understand the mentality. Is it because people can't have two conflicting ideas?
For me personally, like I have a hard time watching anything Tom Cruise does just because of the crazy shit that he does and supposedly believes in. And so I have a hard time, like, whenever he comes out with a new movie, no matter how good it looks, I'm like, I don't want to.
Yeah. Well, and that's what it is. And it's really interesting because we actually just talked about this a little bit on our most recent episode about religious freedom. Because of the scenario that was going on in Indiana State and the religious, the RFRA Act or whatever. Yep. And I was conflicted because I'm a big fan of small government. I'm a big fan of don't tell anybody what to do. But I did not agree with the blatant discrimination that was going on. And I found myself really torn. Like, where do I stand as a person who's very patriotic and believes in what our country is founded on, and as a person of faith who believes that, hey, that's a right that we should have, but you know, like I said, you don't have to be a right to be a dick. So it's like, you know, where's the line? What's
the catalyst? What brings the people together? What, you know, in a world where Ken Anderson is president of the United States and he gets to sit down and tell everybody, look, it would be the best State of the Union ever. You know,
I don't know. We end up on this as an answer to just about every single one of these questions. At the end of every episode, we sort of, how do we solve this problem? And it always boils down to education. And I always say,
read a frickin' book.
Yeah, read a frickin' book. I always say, you know, ignorance is not stupidity. They're not synonyms. Ignorance is just having a lack of understanding or a lack of information. And the way that you cure ignorance is through education. However, there are many people out there who are willfully ignorant. And to me, that is stupid. I mean, as MVP recently pointed out, our last guest, the answer, I don't know, to just about any question is unacceptable in today's day and age. You know what? Hang on a second. Let me figure that out. Yeah. You got it in your pocket. You have access to just insane amounts of information.
And fair disclosure, he says you kind of have to go through some of the bullshit first.
Yeah, you have to figure out. You have to be able to discern like what's BS and what's just what's fact and what's just conjecture, right?
Yeah. By the way, that's God messing with your mic if he doesn't.
Come on, God. That was my Vince McMahon once wrestled God. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah, see, there you go.
Yeah, we got some booze out of the audience. No, come back, please.
Yeah, right. No, yeah, I agree 100%. I think what I found for me personally is doing the podcast has absolutely
changed your opinions on everything.
It has changed my opinions on a lot of things. It has, and we've talked about this. I've shared that with you.
And now he's right.
Off air. No, come on.
And you think that's just from the aspect
like me.
of like the talking? I mean, honestly, I know a lot of people. Short, small-minded people who've just never talked to anybody.
Well, and that was one of the main catalysts for what we're doing. Is it's like, hey, you know, the celebritydom goes away. We have definitely become
dumb celebrity
or dumb celebrity. We've become friends, and so once that kind of wears off, then it's let's be real with each other, and then we got to that rather quickly. I think it's because we both wanted to right away, and so. For me, most people don't have. I mean, for Ken, I'm sure you deal with people who are Christians all the time who you probably can't talk to them the way that you and I get to talk.
And that was, for me, the ultimate frustration was I would have these people always pushing this thing my way. Like, you need this, you need this, you need this, you need this. And so, like, I would read the book, and I would go like, so you don't believe in gay marriage, right? Homosexuality is a sin. How come it says right next to that, in the same book, in the Bible, the same chapter, it says that, the quote reads, or the verse reads, if a man lay with a man the way that he does with a woman, he should be stoned to death. Okay, that's it. That's the only place in the Bible where it ever says anything very specific like that. Then, right next to that, it says, if you eat shellfish, you should be stoned to death. If your child talks back to you, you should take him to the edge of town and stone him to death in front of everybody. That's Leviticus. If you find out,
some crazy stuff. Read Leviticus. Go home and Google it, whatever. Leviticus is some crazy stuff.
If you find out that your wife is not a virgin on the night of your wedding, you should take her to her father's doorstep and stone her to death.
By the way, I'm just curious.
I'll tell you how you find it out.
On Push the Button Podcast.
And it's, how do you discern, what criterion do you use to determine, we got to follow this one right here. This is what he really wanted to hit home to us, and none of this other stuff is important.
And it's usually at this point when I would point out that.
Well, anyway, they glaze over. They don't want. First of all, the stuff that I just said like, it's all there. Yeah. Read it. No, I don't want to read it. You know what? The answer was, you know what? I don't know. I'm not a theologian. Go talk to a theologian. And my answer is like,
I'm talking to you.
Tell me that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
If you can't at least give me an argument as to why you're right. We can disagree. That's fine, ultimately. But to not even have to just say, I don't know, throw up your hands and walk away, well then don't come talk to me and don't push your stuff on me.
Yeah.
Let's do a quick mini lighting, little small episode. Police cameras. Filming police or police wearing cameras. There's a lot of things. Recently, there was a U.S. Marshal took the camera out of the hands of a lady, threw it to the ground.
And we know about this because someone else had that on camera.
And somebody was watching this. It's people filming people. Is what it comes down to. And it's the whole aspect of
Copception.
I have friends who are police officers, and I have friends who aren't. And the law is right now in Illinois that you can videotape a police officer doing his job as long as you're not in the way.
Right.
Mm-hmm. What do you guys?
And in that instance, that person, I mean, it could be argued that she was right there in the middle of a crime scene. She really should have backed
step
up.
To the side.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we don't. And again, it's tough because we don't know the preface to the video. We don't know if they did say that to her and she said, "No, I have a right to stand here." And
right.
No, you don't. You need to go. We don't know. And I'm not saying that did or didn't happen, but we just don't know.
But do you think cops should be required to wear these cameras?
Here we go.
That's why I'm going to ask. This is.
I think that
Big Brother's watching.
I think if you are a civil servant,
yep.
Then you kind of got into that to serve the public.
Mm-hmm.
Then I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing for cops to wear them.
I agree. With the caveat that I don't think they should be on 24/7 because you should have a right to some sort of privacy. But the minute that you
put on the uniform.
Well, no, the minute that you flip those sirens on, or you decide that you're gonna
go into cop mode
to somebody, and do your job, you pull somebody over. Yes, I think that why not keep them honest? And I've seen videos too of police officers. Not every police officer out there is bad. In fact, most of them are good.
And that goes back to the conflicting thought: is why can't these guys be reprimanded?
Because they're killing people. That's
right.
why.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Why can they not be reprimanded? But we still support police officers. We just don't support those police officers.
Yep.
The ongoing theory
the
is
excessive force.
We need to get behind the police officers. It's like, but not all of them are good.
No, and I don't believe like the case in Ohio where the little kid was at the park with a toy gun, and somebody called the police. Are you guys familiar with this? Somebody called the police and said, "There's a kid at the park By the way, I think it might be a toy gun, but I'm not sure. And the dispatcher never relayed that information to the cops. And the cops pull up frickin' Miami Vice style right next to them. It's all on tape. And within 2 seconds of them opening up the door, the kid's dead on the ground. Now, those police officers were supposedly justified in using that type of force because they followed police procedure. And in those cases, maybe it's time that we revisit those procedures and change them.
Do you mean educate?
Yeah. Yeah. And, like, do they need to roll up Miami Vice style? Or could they have pulled, I don't know, 20 yards away, opened up their vehicle, if they thought they were in danger, what do cops normally do? They get down behind their door, they draw their weapon, and they start barking commands. They get out their little megaphone. That's sort of what I think.
And I this is what we do on the show, by the way. So I would say that from the people I know who are police, they would say that sometimes in the moment you go into this mode, and I'm not excusing the behavior. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying there is a mode of it's just you've got to eliminate the problem. Just eliminate the problem. And so,
but was it really a problem? Well, that's the thing. Like, you need to have a better procedures in place so that you can assess that effectively and realistically, and say like, oh, that kid. There's got to be some way to say like, look around the park.
Go, hey, is that real?
Well, look around the park. There's nobody around in the vicinity. It's not like he's in a frickin' shopping mall where there's hundreds and hundreds of people that he's going to potentially kill. He's the kid alone on a playground. That's it.
So you would prefer that police officers, before acting, would stop and think a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah.
And observe the scenario before they do anything.
Is that
too much to ask?
Yeah,
is that too much to ask?
What about the crazy? We got this one small more thing, and then we're going to open up to questions. What about the crazy militarization? Like, there's I don't think Naperville, Illinois has one, but there's like some places they have tanks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you mean like the police force having military grade
it's
gear?
It's like Call of Duty on the streets, like they're walking around.
There are issues there. I have. I mean, I don't know if I don't even know if Ken agrees with me or not, but I don't know if I think our police need that level of tactical weaponry. I mean, if you need a tank, then maybe you should be calling, National Guard or National Guard. But see, no, they can't police, right? They can't. The government says that the military cannot police the U.S. But do we need a tank, really? I mean,
that's my question.
I sort of feel that it may look like overkill, it may look scary, but shouldn't the police have every available technology to use at their disposal, just in case something like that happens? You're shaking your head no. Well, but they're not trained.
It's clearly an intimidation factor, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm saying for use in extreme cases, like we haven't really had any.
Did they have the tank out when they were going after Joe Zarnaev?
Yes.
They had the tank in the streets?
And you know what? The tank didn't do anything. They frickin' went and found him in the back of the boat.
But see, I'm sure they would argue the tank didn't need to be there.
That's a good point. No, that's...
And the boat he was hiding in, they Swiss cheesed the crap out of that thing. Like, they knew he was in the boat, and they laid into that before there was any...
And they still didn't get him.
Yeah. So the whole thing comes down...
Well, that's another thing, too. Like, how many times have you seen cops... There was a case
I watched it
a
all
few
the
years
time.
ago.
I love that show. You're just getting so heavy, man.
Why are you so serious, man?
You're so serious, man.
There was a case a few years ago, I believe at the Empire State Building, where some cops opened fire on a suspect, fired 27 rounds, missed the perpetrator, and shot like 9 civilians or something like that. Like,
let's get him a tank.
This kind of stuff.
Let's give them a tank.
Give him a tank. You're right. Yeah, I would like to reverse my previous decision. See, this is what I'm talking about.
This is what it's all about.
We should always be open to changing our opinions when we are presented with a new way of looking at things or new information. And be open to it. You know what? I never thought of it that way. but also be open to switching it back.
I think Ken has a little victory inside every time I start to deny some of the stuff I've read in the Old Testament.
Let's talk about the Old Testament.
Ken's like,
You
yeah.
guys are gonna go home on Facebook and they're like, man, Mr. Anderson's deep as
He's burying me on Twitter right now. Thank you.
Well, hey, now watch it now. He's just, he's really here, so that's...
I'm an asshole.
All right, let's open it up to questions. We got about 10 minutes left. Let's open it up to questions. Anyone's got a question? You right in the front.
About the thing with the shooting of the kid, do you think if you would have told the cop, the dispatcher told the cop that they thought it was fake, they would have never done all that? Maybe it's also the dispatcher should be in trouble for not reporting actual police. It's like, say, I was a police officer, you told me something, but I didn't know part of the story, and I did that, and then I'd be mad, be like, well, first off, I would have, for me, if I was a police officer, I would have done the exact same thing you were saying. Go up there, not gold mine lifestyle, and act like a big shot. I would actually park a little farther down and come up and assess the situation.
Right.
Honestly.
Especially when it's a little kid, too. Like, really?
An 8-year-old that shot an 8-year-old, well, first off, how does an 8-year-old get a gun? People don't lock up their guns.
Yeah.
Before you answer that, I would have paid even money that the first question would have been a wrestling question.
I did, too.
I'm so stoked. You guys have no idea.
That means we're getting our message across.
Are you ever going to go back to the WWE?
See, there you go. We asked.
You're not allowed to ask wrestling questions on this podcast. Just kidding.
One second. You want to address it, or did you address it?
Like, the whole thing is, like, even with the gun laws, like, in my opinion, they shouldn't go off the legal gun sales because half people get guns illegally from their...
No, we not half. Like 97.5% of all guns purchased in this country are purchased illegally. So what you do by setting up those gun laws, the tighter restrictions on
you get a tank. That's what
waiting
you
periods and the all that stuff. You just keep law-abiding citizens from obtaining those weapons. The bad guys are still going to do it because they don't follow the rules.
Yeah, you can't take the guns away. That's ridiculous.
I walked into my gym. Every time I walk into my gym, this drives me absolutely insane. There's a sign that says, and in Minnesota we have
them here too.
Concealed carry permit. You can actually, this is not like Chicago or Illinois, which is a different country apparently, where you can't own a weapon.
Concealed carry, you just can't take it anywhere.
Can't take it anywhere. Well, that's the thing. Okay,
you can conceal it and you can carry it, but you can't get caught concealing it or carrying it.
And I have my concealed carry permit, and I walk into my gym, and there's a sign on the door that says, we ban, this business or establishment bans all firearms on this presence. And I just remember thinking like, oh, crisis diverted. Because I just saw a guy walking in here with a freaking bazooka strapped to his back, 2 Uzis, hand grenades, and he stopped and he saw that sign and he said, oh,
Well,
I gotta go home now.
what are you going to do if
shit,
somebody
I gotta go to
doesn't wipe
Perkins
down
and
their
have a
equipment?
stack of pancakes now, because,
Ken, what are you going to do if someone doesn't wipe down their equipment? You have to shoot them with a bazooka.
oh no. I'm packing heat, bro. Hey!
People think that they want to take all their guns away. One, you don't need an AK-47 for hunting.
Why not?
Because they're fully automatic. And
Shredded deer is pretty
Well, yeah,
good.
we don't own
Cold deer.
fully automatic rifles are not legal in this country. Haven't been for a long time.
But don't bad people
Those
still get
rifles, the AR-15 is just a rifle. It's a deer rifle. It's a .22 basically, with a scary looking handle and a scary looking military-esque.
So it doesn't fire like...
But the thing is it's no.
That's exactly what it sounds like.
That's what I do when somebody breaks in my house. I'm like...
Is there a helicopter?
But my thing is like, okay, we have to ban assault rifles. We have to ban AR-15s because nobody needs them and yada yada yada. Okay, well, and it was because that was the weapon of choice that all these mass killers were using. I got a double-barrel shotgun down in my basement that fires. One shot has 20 pellets that spreads and sprays. Like that would do far more damage. Like it holds 12 shots. My shotgun holds 12 shots. I immediately, what is that?
You could just walk into a place and tell them what happens in Daredevil, and then it's pretty much over.
they didn't use heavy machinery.
Right.
Well, people talk about the right to bear arms, getting the right to bear arms. They forget the well-regulated militia. They forget that. They're like, don't even worry about that.
Yeah,
All right, in the back, the leather.
Oh no! Oh, you just started it. There we go. Don't get hot.
Well-regulated did not mean the same thing that
Right.
meant today.
With the muzzle loader and the trying to keep the king out of your
No,
living room.
it meant well-supplied and well-stocked.
King's actually coming here and kick me around. What do you got? Yeah.
Switching gears.
Thank you.
Will you go back to the WWE?
Social media has created this big culture of outspoken whiners, and it seems like public figures give it a lot of power. To me, it seems imaginary. So I'm interested in what are your thoughts? Is it real? Is it imaginary? Because it seems to be constantly caving.
To what power?
Are you saying like it's
So
a
people
fake-
whine
it's
on,
a
like,
fake
social
sense of
media.
voice?
Yeah. Is that real power or not?
I think certain celebrities do have a lot of power. I think if Oprah tweets something, a lot of her people. I mean, you can see that.
Yeah, I
That's
think so.
effective.
I think
she's
so.
been fairly effective in pushing certain books, right? Like,
Yeah.
Well, no, but his question, and we've talked
I
about this
totally-
before. We have more power with social media. Just your situation with your cable company.
wow, yeah.
You tweeted about it, and
Yep.
problem solved. I had an issue with my cell phone product from a very famous fruit company. I had an issue with the take off your hat, man. I had an issue with a delivery, and I was so flippin' frustrated. I just tweeted about it, and I think I tweeted it to Tim Cook, and I was like, "Hey, dude, what the hell?"
Who's Tim Cook?
He's the CEO of Apple.
Hey, you weren't supposed to say that.
Whatever.
CEO of the fruit company in question.
So the long and short of it was, I mean, it was my order for my phone was like weeks delayed, and then I tweeted that out, and then within the hour, I got a phone call from the company going, "It's on its way," and it was just like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, there was an incident with Kevin Smith, who I think is just a couple rooms down that way. There was an incident where he was on a Southwest Airlines flight, and they told him that he was too fat to sit in a seat and that he needed to buy 2 seats or something like that. And he was like,
Have you seen Clerks?
okay, I'm fat, but I'm not that fat kind of thing. And they kicked him off the flight. He went out and just started tweeting. He's got like 12 million followers on Twitter. And within a few tweets, he said somebody came over to him from Southwest, like one of the bigwigs, and said, Mr. Smith, please stop tweeting. And we'll fix the situation, whatever you need. And, so yeah, I think anytime anybody has a voice for anything, we're supposed to have freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And I may not agree with what you say on Twitter. I may not agree with what Joe Biden puts out on Twitter, but I respect his right to do that kind of thing. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Red shirt.
No, he's like, no, not at all.
It's sort of like the opposite. It's like, anytime a celebrity or a figure says something that people don't like, all of a sudden you get like this response, and there seems to be this instant want to like cater to the response of people who are not apologizing.
Oh,
It's just sort of being
like the Phil, the Duck Dynasty guy, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
He's got to
okay.
apologize.
He said something that, again, in my opinion, he was ignorant, right? Not stupid. He was ignorant. And right away, in this country where we celebrate the freedom of speech, we immediately we have to punish that guy because he doesn't feel the way that I do. Well, no, like, how about we talk about it? And maybe we can try to educate him and change his opinion a little bit. And
That's
change
just
some
it.
of
We
the other
have
people's opinions.
we have that knee-jerk reaction to no, it offended me, so I want to be angry about it.
The whole Bill Maher always said,
You know what?
why do they need to go away? Why don't we talk to them?
Yeah.
And why don't we, it goes back to education.
Well,
They
if
don't
Bill
need
Maher
to
says
go
it,
away.
it's fine.
Well, I'm just
Fine.
saying, he's, somebody he was protecting that guy's right to be ignorant. He's
Yeah.
like, it doesn't have to go away, but we.
No, I absolutely agree with that. Dude, if somebody's an idiot, let him talk. Don't censor him. Yeah, I want to know exactly. Let him go.
Well, let the court look. There are certain things where obviously
I'm not going to Indiana for pizza anytime soon. That's all I'm saying. Thank you. I get it. I wouldn't anyway. I'm from
There are
Chicago.
certain times that we do need the government to step in. You know, we like to say, I'm largely libertarian. I believe in limited government. Don't tell me what to do. As long as I'm not hurting anybody, and as long as they're not hurting me, like, whatever. I just lost my...
Well, you just said you were a large libertarian. I thought, I'm larger. I'm a larger libertarian.
I've seen it. I beg to differ.
Oh! I'm going to free my market.
He's not Jewish, ladies and
Oh,
gentlemen. He's not
God.
Jewish. What? No,
Sorry, what? This just got weird. Sorry.
That's okay. We can go on. What was going to be your question? Go for it. Okay.
I'm sorry. We can only do
the second part- do the second part
1.5.
first. Let's confuse everyone. Do the second part first. No.
No, don't do that.
All right. Okay.
And we're out of time. Thank you.
Jesus.
That was a great bit.
I don't know if you guys know about Gamergate, social justice warriors, Congress got to change the cover. Change the cover is an example. I don't know if you guys know.
Well, to be more inclusive towards females, right? In these.
Well, that's the argument that they make when it comes to forward extremism and extreme censorship.
I don't know a whole lot about it.
I remember the buzz about it when it was going on, but I don't remember the specifics of the issue. But it was. I mean, I know all about it, but for everybody else here who doesn't know, why don't you explain a little bit more?
Yeah.
It was a complicated issue, but it kind of distilled down to the right. There were a large group of video game reviewers and publishers that were colluding together on what was reviewed and what was being released with a lot more publicity. That got exposed, and it became an argument that was a feminine woman. And from there, it's become then since we're at a comic book convention, there was a cover that we put out back in the comic book show back then, and that showed Joker tying up and holding Batgirl. If DC pulled the cover,
Okay. So that kind of goes back into his question, right? Like, is it right for companies to backpedal when the public says they don't like something that they think they're doing? I would argue that a company has the right to produce something they want, and if they feel like they're going to lose their market, if they don't, then they have the right to change it. But if they change it and lose their market, then that was their mistake.
Are you saying about like a small group of people influencing on a greater scale?
I guess my question is more along the how do you feel about people using this issue to directly influence?
Isn't that your entire theory of religion?
And there ties into willful ignorance. Like, you have the ability, wherever the hell it went, you can. It takes some digging and you have to do some legwork, but you can sort of figure out like what's bullshit and what's not, and look at both sides of the issues. So.
Well, and arguably,
wait,
go ahead.
Because I just remember this sort of ties into what I was going to say earlier.
I'm a large
I don't
libertarian.
like to have the government step in, but in certain cases,
It's right. It's what it is.
throughout the history of this country, we've had to have the government step in. We'd like to say, like, oh, let the court of public opinion figure it out, and if this establishment wants to do this, well, then people will stop frequenting those establishments. Well, it had to take the government to step in, or, people would still be drinking at different fountains based on this guy's got a darker tan than this guy does, so he has to go drink over at this fountain, right? Like, we had to have the government step in and say, like, you can't segregate. What's that? Exactly. When now we live in a time where it seems that a majority of our electorate is uninformed and just doesn't give a shit about it either. People make jokes about it all the time, but it's true. They worry more about what Kim Kardashian is going to wear to the Grammys or, whatever.
And I think we all fall guilty of that in some way or another. I mean,
sure.
It's not right if there is if there's a small minority of people who are hashtagging and making change in public commerce, when there's the majority who say nothing.
You were done with that.
Do you know what I mean? So if there's 1 million people who are complaining about the cover of a comic book, and they're going to change it, but there's 20 million people who say nothing, then you deserve it, because those 20 million people should have stood up and said, no, leave the cover. Do you know what I mean? That's really what it boils down to, and that's why we do what we do. You know, we don't necessarily agree on everything, but we agree on enough that it needs to be talked about. Me being a Christian, him being an atheist, we're not going to get anywhere if we don't listen to each other. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, which actually ties into my second question. Our group is fairly diverse, mostly atheists, skeptical Christians.
Okay.
Mr. Anderson, how often do you feel like you're preaching?
Well, I very rarely feel like I'm preaching to the choir.
He's usually getting
There
beat
are
up by
very
an
few
actual
people that
choir.
agree with. You said you guys are atheists. There are very few. Every time I tell somebody that I'm an atheist, I swear to you,
They
and
give you that
I
look.
know you know this. I told somebody the other day. I was out in L.A. about 2 months ago at one of my wrestling friends' homes, and a bunch of us were just sitting around.
Was it
and,
Hulk Hogan? Please God, let it be Hulk Hogan.
No, I was way cooler than that. Actually, I'm not a name dropper, bro.
Wait, tell me.
Tori Wilson.
It was Tori Wilson.
And anyway, we were sitting around.
Hey, wait a minute.
We were discussing this kind of stuff. And I said, I'm an atheist, and she went,
Yeah, it's the physical recoil.
what,
They're
like,
oh.
like,
The confusion are almost terrifying.
you said you're a Satanist? You said you boil babies on the stove and eat them for breakfast? What the hell is wrong with you? Seriously,
Yeah.
that is the type of response that I get.
I get the same thing when they go, and I say I'm a Christian, but I don't have a problem with gay marriage, and I get that. What? I don't think.
Read your book.
Yeah, read a freaking
Just
book.
read it. No, read
your
that
own
book.
Read your own book.
Don't just take the little.
Pro-gun control, firearms.
Pardon?
Pro-gun control, kind of regulation. Who can get a 40 card or stuff like that. But I'm totally for firearms.
I'm totally.
So he wants you to know he doesn't believe in God, but he also believes that you can't have a gun.
No,
I'm
no.
just kidding. I'm just
I
kidding.
think he believes that there should be a closer look at the people who are buying them.
You're just clinging to your no God and your no guns.
That's so rare.
Oh, wow. All right, we got time for one more question. Yeah, right there, the black. Yes, you.
That's
Whoa,
racist.
hey, you can't say that, bro.
In the African American.
So, even if you're very patriotic and quite rational, how do you
Wait, I'm patriotic.
And I'm rational. Boom!
Thank you. That's our new T-shirt. You can buy it on DVMPE.com. Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
One's patriotic.
because a lot of people our age don't vote.
I did not go to college, so
The electrical
I
college.
can't go to the electrical college.
Do we still need it? That's why a lot of us don't vote.
That's a
Because of the
good
electrical
question.
college.
You feel like your vote just is irrelevant? Yeah.
It is. Well, it's interesting. Every time I watch these election cycles, they literally can tell within the first, hour in a place based on 1% of the vote or something like that. Well, we've done exit polling and we can
And they're a part of the
Clearly-
Illuminati, but
we can
whatever.
clearly project. Yeah, they already know ahead of time.
There's a town in, I think in New England, it's 55 people, and 55 registered voters, and they have successfully predicted almost every single, whatever they vote for, that person's elected. Every single election. So do we just let them vote and be like, okay, It's the whole aspect of California's got this huge amount of people,
Right.
But then a smaller state also has the same amount of senators. Should California have 10 senators as opposed to
Well, I mean, Illinois is a
Rhode
great
Island.
example of how that works. Illinois is predominantly Republican,
Yeah.
except the city of Chicago takes over the entire vote.
The Senate is supposed to be super state.
Right.
People in California, everyone I know who's under 18
Yep. I've seen it. 1% of the vote in counted. We can
We're
already
going to go for so-and-so.
we can already
calling it.
definitely project that so and so is going to be the winner in this state. Like, what? No, I
Not at all.
don't at all, and
Not at all.
it makes me cynical. Well, but then who's going to be the judge, jury, and executioner there? Like, you know what? You're intelligent enough to vote. You're intelligent enough to vote.
It's such a divide. You don't want. Honestly, to be completely honest, yes.
Well, to me,
It's going to be the same people that control everything else that make this.
That's
Right.
the problem. It's such a hard. Most people don't even know who they're voting for. I know a lot of people vote for different.
Yeah, I find that for me personally, I often bounce back and forth between does my vote count, does it not count? And again, I live in Illinois, and much like Ken, I am a libertarian. So who am I going to vote for? Usually, I have a choice of going more conservative because it's closer to a libertarian mindset. But I live in Illinois, so it's like, what's the
Chicago,
point?
You don't die. You just vote Democrat.
You just vote. Well, yeah, you just vote twice. But did I say that over there? Sorry. But yeah, for me, I think of the Reagan election. I don't think that would have happened if it was bullshit. The complete landslide like that across the country. I was getting that way where I was feeling like my vote didn't count anymore, and then this current election, was it last year? Just a huge swipe over of the Senate, and I was like, whoa. I mean, to me, it seemed like the majority of the voting voice wasn't in that mindset. So for that to be that huge overturn, I was like, well, maybe there is something to it, because.
Or is it that people don't know what midterm elections are?
But that's the
don't
whole
care.
point. But if it didn't work, then that wouldn't have happened,
and I think it also
or it couldn't have happened.
It also boils down to that apathy that you guys are experiencing, that I experienced. I myself. I have to vote because I guess
I was just worried.
I'm holding on to that feeling that that's the way it's supposed to be. But I do agree that the Electoral College, we need to do something different. I don't know what the answer is, but what's that?
We're just suggesting for them to vote.
Well,
Yeah,
how can they get more votes on American Idol than we have in the country? I mean, right?
There it is.
Right?
That's the one.
Right.
there.
So
Well, and
text your vote for
let's
president.
figure out a way to make politics and current events and things that are actually important. Let's make them. Let's figure out a way to reach out to people and make it entertaining. Then
Republican Democrat Survivor. I'd watch that shit. John Boehner, you've been voted off the island. Stop crying.
I'm gonna take.
Nancy Pelosi didn't even make it off the boat.
I'm gonna take empirical rule and say we have time for that one last question with the hand
Yeah,
up
we
way in
do
the
have
back.
time for one last question in the back. Go ahead.
What do you think for the election? They just gave, you got Democrat, you got Republican, you got neither. If neither wins, they got to come back with two fresh candidates.
That's a freaking brilliant.
That's really good.
I'm
That is
sick
really
and tired of
good.
the idea that we have out of what, there are 320 million people in America. Out of that 320 million people, we whittle it down to two. And when you really stand back and look at those two, really? This is the best that we could come up with?
Yeah. Well, and I was always told, you vote for the lesser of two
That's the
evils.
thing. I'm tired of
or-
voting for the taller little person.
Who cares?
The slightly taller little. That's probably a bad analogy to use, but
You could have
it's
said otherwise.
Literally,
You're fine. You're fine.
just a slightly more intelligent idiot. But I'm sick and tired of the two-party system, and I hear people say this all the time. You're going to throw away your vote if you give it to another candidate. If we all continue to vote that way and think that way, nothing will ever change. So
Ken Anderson,
from this point on,
2016,
like,
what do you
That's
say?
right. Vote, all right, then. Well, what's
well,
that?
it happens to be that like the guy that I sort of support switched, and
Uh-oh.
I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but the slightly more intelligent idiot happened to say
Is it the same idiot that
he
I
was a
like?
libertarian, and now he
Okay.
says that he's a Republican. So I don't know.
No, I'm with you. I'm
I'll
with
tell
you.
you-
Curly, bouncy, manageable hair.
One more thing.
Does he have excellent eyes?
He's got beautiful eyes, beautiful blue eyes. I was going to say the most important thing that I think we need in this country to change everything is term limits for senators, term limits for the president.
Absolutely.
I think I'm tired of every 3 years they quit their job and they start campaigning. Every 2 years,
Yeah.
the president gets elected, and then 2 years later he has to start campaigning again, and they're sort of hamstrung. They can't really make changes because they have to play the game. And I think the presidential term should be limited to, it should be one term, and it should be 6 or 8 years. Like, you know what? If maybe that'll get people to come out and vote. Like, I'm going to have this guy for 8 years. I better go and vote if I don't want him. And so term limits for senators, you got senators in there that, like, again,
Their
people
career, yeah.
just check. The last time I went and voted, like, I didn't know any of the senators, like, from my, well,
You should read a freaking book, man.
Well, there's
and
also
then
judges
lobbyists,
that run unopposed.
lobbyists have to go away because
Yeah.
every senator is beholden to these freaking lobbyists. And
You guys watch House of Cards? My favorite line in that whole show is "A heartbeat away from the presidency and not a single ballot cast in my name. Democracy is so overrated." I mean, holy crap. Could that really happen? I mean, you know?
All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming out. Let's hear it for David Vox Mullen. You guys, seriously, go on DVM podcast, DVMPE.com, and check out all of the podcasts we have, but push the button. You can download it on iTunes, listen to your car, and agree with Ken all the way to work. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Or you can all pray for me.
Or pray for. Ken's here all weekend. You are at which booth?
1, 2, 3, 7 with Kevin Nash and Al Snow.
You go and check it out. And we are at 681, the DVM Podcast Empire. Come by and check us out. Come talk to us. Look for the jerseys. That's what we'll be wearing. Thank you guys so much for coming. This is so much fun. Thanks.
Now, you guys,
Thank
if
you.
anybody wants to continue to rap, let's go.
Ken will be happy to talk about atheism in the hallway.